Have you ever been stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic, just staring up at the wide open sky and thinking, I wish I could just leave? It's a fantasy we've all had, the dream of ditching gravity and just soaring. We see it in our myths, our superheroes, and our own daydreams. But have you ever really, truly stopped to think about what life would be like if that fantasy became a reality for every single person? Picture it, a world where your morning commute isn't on a crowded highway, but in the open air, with the clouds drifting by. What if, overnight, all of us gained the ability to fly? Our world would become unrecognizable almost instantly. Skyscrapers might have their main entrances on the 80th floor, and the whole idea of a road could become a distant memory. But with this incredible freedom, what new dangers and challenges would we suddenly have to deal with? The answer would change everything, from the homes we live in to the very idea of what a country even is. The first thing to get a complete makeover would be our cities. Right now, our world is basically flat. We build outwards, following roads and coastlines. But with flight, our civilization would immediately explode into 3 dimensions. Today's city is a collection of towers tethered to the ground by a web of concrete. Now imagine those towers could be connected at any level. Architects would have the time of their lives. Buildings would be designed for aerial entry, not just front doors. Rooftop gardens would become grand lobbies. Balconies would be personal launch pads. And you might find the coolest new cafe 50 stories in the air. We could build taller, more elegant structures, no longer slaves to the congested streets below. Cities might look more like man-made forests, with residential towers acting like self-contained villages in the sky. Public spaces would change too. Sidewalks and parks at ground level might feel a little old-fashioned, replaced by elevated plazas and multi-level community hubs suspended between buildings. All that asphalt from parking lots and highways, we could tear it up and reclaim it for parks, urban farms, or wild new kinds of architecture we can't even picture yet. Our homes would put a new premium on height and privacy. Tinted windows would probably become standard to stop flying peeping toms from gliding past. The world would look less like a grid and a lot more like a dream. With everyone flying, what happens to the trillions of dollars we've poured into cars, trains, and highways? Well, they'd pretty much become museum pieces overnight. The age of the automobile would come to a screeching halt. Traffic jams would be a forgotten nightmare. The roar of engines would be replaced by what exactly? The whisper of wind? Or maybe a low hum of whatever is helping us fly? Whatever the sound, the system would be brand new. The real challenge wouldn't be getting around, but managing the sheer chaos of it all. Imagine rush hour over New York City, but in 3D. The risk of mid-air collisions would be terrifyingly high. This would force us to create a sophisticated, probably automated, air traffic control system for people. Think of it as invisible highways in the sky, with designated altitudes for different directions, speed limits, and strict no-fly zones over places like hospitals or airports. Personal safety gear would become as common as smartphones. Aerodynamic helmets, impact-resistant clothing, and personal collision avoidance systems would be a massive new industry. And your daily weather report would become the most important show of the day. A strong headwind wouldn't just be an annoyance, it could be deadly. A sudden storm wouldn't just ruin your picnic, it could ground an entire city.
All this freedom would create a tangled mess of new laws and social rules. Right now, your property rights mostly go straight up. But what happens when your neighbor decides to hover outside your bedroom window for a chat? We need complex new laws to define airspace rights, aerial trespassing, and privacy. the punishment of being grounded could become very, very literal for reckless flyers. You'd almost certainly need a license to fly. Just like we do with cars, we'd have to make sure everyone, from teenagers to seniors, knows how to navigate the skies safely. And crime? It would get a serious upgrade. A bank robber's getaway could be a high-speed vertical escape. Smuggling and terrorism would take on terrifying new forms. Police forces would have to become elite airborne units, trained in high-speed aerial pursuits and takedowns. Beyond the law, our basic etiquette would have to adapt. Would it be rude to create a huge downdraft when you land on a crowded platform? Would we see a new kind of air rage to replace road rage? New social classes might even appear. Your status might not be about the car you drive, but by how fast, how high, or how gracefully you fly.
Our daily routines and even what we wear would be completely transformed. Seriously, look at your closet right now. How much of that is practical for zipping through the open air at 50 miles per hour? Clothes would have to be aerodynamic and weather-resistant. Flowing dresses, loose ties, and stilettos would probably be out, replaced by stylish, form-fitting gear. We might see the rise of flight leisure, cool outfits that have lightweight armor, built-in heating, and maybe even navigation displays woven in. Goggles would be essential, along with gloves and special shoes designed for soft landings. Your daily schedule would be unrecognizable. An hour-long commute could shrink to 10 minutes. This would completely change the work-life balance. You could live hundreds of miles away from your job, somewhere remote and beautiful, and still get to the office faster than someone in the city does today. The very idea of a neighborhood changes when your actual neighbors could be scattered across a 100-mile radius. On the biggest scale, universal flight would reshape our sense of geography and who we are. Borders are just lines on a map, and they become almost meaningless when anyone can just fly over them. This would ramp up cultural exchange in a way that not even the internet has managed. Just like the airplane made the world feel smaller in the 20th century, personal flight would take that to the extreme. We'd see a wild blending of cultures, foods, and ideas. This could spark a new era of global citizenship, where your nationality feels less important than our shared identity as a flying species. Remote villages would no longer be isolated. The barriers that have separated us for thousands of years would finally, literally vanish into thin air. But this new globalism has a dark side. It could wash away unique local traditions in a wave of global trends. And just like aviation brought us global trade, it also gave us new ways to wage war and spread disease. A world without borders is a world with new, scary vulnerabilities we haven't even thought of yet. Of course, a world where everyone flies isn't some perfect paradise. With that much freedom comes an equal potential for it to go wrong. What about inequality? Sure, everyone can fly, but access to high-performance gear, better safety systems, or training for advanced techniques would create a new, very visible class divide. You could literally see the gap between the rich and the poor in the sky above you. Crime would evolve in horrifying ways. A burglar could hit the 90th floor as easily as the first. Kidnappers could simply vanish into the clouds. How do you possibly secure a city when an attack can come from any direction at any altitude? Prisons might have to be built underground or inside giant domes to prevent escapes. And what about the people who can't fly? The elderly, people with disabilities, or those with a crippling fear of heights could become a new underclass, stranded on the ground while the rest of humanity soars above. We would have to make tough choices to ensure this new world is for everyone, not just the young, brave, and able-bodied.
the world would be fundamentally rewritten. It's an incredible, almost dizzying idea. What do you think would be the single biggest change? Would you be thrilled to take to the skies? Or would the new dangers keep your feet planted firmly on the ground? Let us know what you think in the comments. And if you love thinking about these huge what-if questions, make sure to like and subscribe for more.
From the shape of our homes to the laws we live by, Flight for All would be the most transformative event in human history. It would unlock a new dimension of freedom and connection. But it would also unleash a new dimension of danger, inequality, and chaos. It makes you wonder, would this ultimate freedom lift humanity to new heights? Or would we just find more creative ways to fall? The sky would no longer be the limit. It would be the new frontier for all of our greatest triumphs and all of our deepest flaws.